J-Bone here, and I've got everything you need to know before you watch this weekend's 2025 F1 Austrian Grand Prix that very easily could result in me, J-Bone, losing a bet and having to change my name. More on that later. J-Bone! For now. Also, this is going to be the last ever Formula Bone video filmed on this version of the Formula Bone set, so enjoy it while it lasts. Alright, here is what you need to know about the Formula 1 Austrian Grand Prix before this weekend's race. The 2025 F1 Austrian Grand Prix takes place this weekend at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, Bezirk-Mertal, Styria, Austria, Europe, Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Laniakea Supercluster, Universe, Multiverse, Simulation. The Austrian Grand Prix weekend starts this Friday, June 27th, which will consist of free practices 1 and 2. Saturday, June 28th will consist of free practice 3 and qualifying, and Sunday, June 29th will consist of the 44th running of Austria's national car race and the 38th running of the Austrian Grand Prix as part of the Formula 1 World Championship. Interestingly and thankfully for F1 sprint haters around the globe, the 2025 Austrian Grand Prix will be the first Austrian Grand Prix since 2021 to not be an F1 sprint weekend. Formula 1 decided to remove it from the sprint calendar this season and slot in Spa to replace it after Spa was left off last season's F1 sprint calendar. Hilariously, because Spa is F1's longest circuit, the Spa sprint race is only 11 laps long, much closer to a Mario Kart race than a Grand Prix race. In terms of the race's history, the first ever Formula 1 World Championship Austrian Grand Prix took place in 1964 and was won by Ferrari's Lorenzo Bandini, who was an actual race car driver, even though your brain is probably programmed to think of that as like one of those Italian brain rot names because the internet has taken over all of our lives. The inaugural 1964 edition of the F1 World Championship Austrian Grand Prix was the only one to take place not on the grounds of what is currently the Red Bull Ring, and not only that, but it didn't even take place on a racetrack at all. For more on that, I'm gonna toss it to me, J-Bone, from my criminally underrated video, The 5 Weirdest Circuits in F1 History. Now we're headed to Austria, except not to the Red Bull Ring, but across the street actually from the Red Bull Ring, to the Zeltweg Airfield. The first ever Austrian Grand Prix took place in 1964 at the Zeltweg Airfield circuit, which, if you can't tell by the name, was more airfield than circuit. The Zeltweg Airfield is the home base of the Austrian Air Force, and back in the 60s, some Austrians were like, ooh, it's pretty cool that those Brits turned that Silverstone airfield into an F1 circuit. We should try that with our airfield. So they did, except Zeltweg was a bit less suited to being turned into a Formula 1 circuit than Silverstone was, considering it only had one airstrip to Silverstone's 3, and thus the best circuit they were able to extract out of it was this beautiful monstrosity right here. The Zeltweg Airfield circuit holds the record as the shortest circuit by length in the history of Formula 1, and it's the only circuit in F1 history to be shorter than 2 miles in length, coming in at 1.98 miles or 3.186 kilometers. It's also tied with a couple other circuits, one of which we'll get to later, stay tuned for that one, for having the fewest number of turns in Formula 1 history at 4 turns. Truly a terrible circuit. If you ask me, I think it's shaped like the L that it is. The only thing that could have made the Zeltweg Airfield circuit worse would have been big techs watching over it from a nearby hill like Rio de Janeiro's Christ the Redeemer statue. If the short length and lack of turns weren't enough to make you think this circuit was a weird choice to host an F1 race, maybe the fact that its track surface was so bumpy and abrasive that Formula 1 vowed never to return after the 1964 Austrian Grand Prix will sway you. You stink. If you like that content, I'll link the full video at the end of this video so that you can go watch it. Please do. That video deserves like 100K views and it does not have it. While we're on the topic of Austrian Grand Prix history, here's a crazy story I stumbled upon while doing my Austrian GP research. Did you know that Team Penske used to have a Formula 1 team and that they actually won a Formula 1 race? In case you aren't familiar with Team Penske, they are the most successful and famous auto racing organization in the history of the United States, racking up an absurd 20 Indy 500 victories and 44 total drivers' championships across 11 different racing series. Their founder and owner, the captain, Roger Penske, also owns the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the IndyCar series as a whole, and many, many more things, which is why he's a billionaire. Yet despite all their fame and successes in America, I had absolutely zero clue that not only did Team Penske used to compete in Formula 1, but they were successful there too. Team Penske competed in Formula One from 1974 to 1976 as a works team with an American license, and during those 3 seasons, they racked up 22 World Championship points across 31 race entries. When it comes to Team Penske's lowest F1 low and highest F1 high, both took place at the Austrian Grand Prix. Team Penske's darkest F1 moment was undoubtedly when their American driver, Mark Donohue, an Indy 500 champion, crashed during one of the 1975 Austrian Grand Prix practice sessions and later died from his injuries along with a marshal who was struck by debris during the crash. And while it did not come close to making up for the loss of Donohue and the marshal, Team Penske's greatest F1 moment came 1 year later at the 1976 Austrian Grand Prix when John Watson drove his Penske car to what will become Team Penske's only ever Formula One victory, as well as the most recent F1 World Championship victory for a team with an American license. Of course, until either Haas or Cadillac do it next season. While Roger Penske decided to leave F1 to focus on IndyCar in 1976, which clearly was a good decision as Team Penske is IndyCar's most successful team ever, they will forever be a part of F1 history as one of just 39 F1 teams to ever record an F1 World Championship race win. Also, Roger Penske and I were members of the same fraternity in college, and I think that's kind of cool. Now, let's move on to talking about the Austrian Grand Prix circuit, the Red Bull Ring, which is the home circuit of a team you'll probably never guess. But first, are you looking for a pair of sunglasses that are high quality and affordable? Of course you are. Everybody is. Well, you can stop looking because I've found them for you by way of my sponsor, Goodr Sunglasses. Goodr's sunglasses start at just $25, so they do not break the bank, and your day will not be ruined if you happen to lose them. And I lose sunglasses all the time, so thank you, Goodr. All Goodr sunglasses are also 100% polarized, made from high quality yet lightweight materials, and specially designed to not slip or bounce while on your face. Check it out. Because of all that, it should be no surprise that Goodr sunglasses have 50,000 plus 5-star reviews. And if you somehow are not yet convinced that you need Goodrs, they come in a ton of styles and colorways from fun like these to classic like these, so you're sure to find something you'll love, and they come with a 30-day money-back guarantee if you aren't 100% satisfied. You truly have nothing to lose by giving them a shot, so do it. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Goodr is giving Formula Bone listeners free shipping. You can go to goodr.com/fbone and use code FBONE for free shipping. Goodr offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's goodr.com/fbone and use code FBONE for free shipping. The Austrian Grand Prix's Red Bull Ring is 4.318 kilometers or 2.68 miles in length, and the Austrian Grand Prix will be contested over the course of 71 laps around its 10 turns. And yes, you heard that right. The Red Bull Ring only has 10 turns. This is few enough to make it the current F1 circuit with the fewest number of corners, to match how the Austrian Grand Prix's original circuit, the Zeltweg Airfield, is tied for being the all-time F1 circuit with the fewest number of corners. Apparently, Austrians don't like corners. They would absolutely hate the old French Grand Prix's Charade circuit that had 38 of them. What the Red Bull Ring lacks in corners, though, it makes up for in terms of DRS straights. The Red Bull Ring has the most consecutive DRS zones in F1 with back-to-back flat-out DRS straights, each having its own detection line. This configuration always leads to some entertaining overtake battles where drivers have to worry about overtaking too early and thus giving the other driver the opportunity to re-overtake later on in the lap. Due to its location in the Austrian Alps, the Red Bull Ring features the second most elevation change over the course of a lap in all of Formula One, with 63.5 meters or 208 feet of elevation change lap over lap, creating a unique challenge for drivers and teams in terms of setup and just driving the car. But enough about the Red Bull Ring's features, let's move on to talking about its owners. The Red Bull Ring is obviously owned by Red Bull, an Austria-based company most famous for their eponymous energy drink and second most famous for their eponymous F1 team. Ever heard of it? The Red Bull Ring is Red Bull's home race, obviously, as well as one of Red Bull driver Max Verstappen's 3 home races, along with the Dutch and Belgian Grand Prix, because Max is both Dutch and Belgian. Now, I'm no conspiracy theorist, but hear me out. Should Formula One team owners and engine manufacturers be allowed to also own Formula One racetracks? Get a load of these results. Red Bull own the Red Bull Ring, and Red Bull have won 5 of the last 9 races held there. Honda own the Suzuka circuit, and they are the engine partner to Red Bull, who have won the last 4 F1 races held there. And most interestingly, in my opinion, Bahrain's Sovereign Wealth Fund owns both McLaren and the Bahrain International Circuit, and in McLaren's first race at the Bahrain International Circuit since being bought by Bahrain, they got their first ever Grand Prix win there earlier this season. I want to make clear that I am not making any bold claims here, as I have zero evidence that anything nefarious is going on in terms of racetrack owners doing anything to help certain teams win at their circuits. This whole conversation is kind of an extension of the whole should Red Bull be allowed to own two F1 teams debate, in terms of it involving the nature of the relationships between owners, teams, and the competition of F1. And yes, it is a hilarious coincidence that Red Bull is involved in this conversation as well, or maybe it's not. Like I said, I'm no conspiracy theorist, and I am not making any claims here whatsoever, okay? But I am curious if all of you think that these synchronized results are merely coincidences or could be something more. Let me know in the comments, and on a completely and totally unrelated note, I'd like to wish a warm early congratulations to Red Bull Racing on their upcoming win at the Red Bull Ring this weekend. All right, here are all the big F1 storylines you need to be following for this weekend's F1 Austrian Grand Prix. Your first storyline, how will Lando Norris bounce back from what happened in Canada? At the most recent F1 race in Montreal, Lando Norris crashed out while attempting an incredibly foolish overtake on his McLaren teammate and championship rival Oscar Piastri that was quite literally never going to work, like ever in a million years. Now, it's up to Lando to bounce back from this huge mistake that caused him to lose a bunch of ground to Piastri in the World Drivers' Championship, and he has to do so at a circuit where he was involved in another race-ruining collision last season with Max Verstappen that the stewards believe was Max's fault, but that most people agree Lando could have prevented with some smarter driving. Only time will tell if Lando's up for this big battle, not just with the rest of the grid, but with himself. Your second storyline, can George Russell go back-to-back? And no, I don't just mean back-to-back 2025 wins, considering he just won the most recent Grand Prix in Canada. I mean back-to-back Austrian Grand Prix as well, considering he inherited the race win there last season after Max Verstappen collided with Lando Norris. The steward's words, not mine. Given George's and Mercedes' incredible form this whole season, and at the most recent data point in Canada, I think that there's definitely a chance that George pulls off a surprise victory in Austria. Speaking of liking George as a sleeper pick to win the Austrian Grand Prix, it would really help my channel out if you could please like this video really quick, because I'm trying to hit 4,000 likes on it so that YouTube likes me more and shows my race previews and recaps to more people this season than they did last season. It takes 2 seconds to like this video, and it's 100% free to do so. And also, it really does help me out in a huge way, so thank you for considering doing so. J-Bone! For now. Your third storyline, how will Red Bull perform at their home race? The Red Bull Ring is quite obviously Red Bull's home race, and because of this, because of how well they usually perform there, because they're bringing many upgrades, and because Max just had a solid outing in Canada even without all those factors in play, Red Bull are eyeing a race win in Austria this weekend. Working against them are the fact that McLaren are still very fast, the fact that one more penalty point would mean a one-race ban for Max Verstappen, and the rumor that Max may tank in Austria to trigger a contract release clause that would allow him to join Aston Martin or Mercedes for next season. That's just a rumor, not financial advice. Your fourth storyline, can Ferrari's Austria upgrades turn their season around? Despite narrowly missing out on winning last season's Constructors' Championship, like literally barely, Ferrari are currently sitting in third place in this season's Constructors' Championship with just 3 Grand Prix podiums to their name. That is well below what their target was after their wildly successful 2024 campaign. In an effort to get their season going with a little momentum, Ferrari are bringing a new floor to Austria, and it's being rumored they may also be bringing a fast-tracked rear suspension upgrade package as well, as they seek to overtake Mercedes for P2 in the Constructors' Championship ASAP. Will it be enough? We'll find out soon. Which storylines are you the most excited to watch this weekend? Let me see them in the comments. Next up, here are J-Bone's Austrian Grand picks, brought to you by Grid Rivals Picks Game. Grid Rivals Picks Game gives race fans like you and me the chance to turn our F1 knowledge into money simply by making correct race predictions on the Grid Rival app. And here are my Grid Rival picks for the Austrian Grand Prix that I'm hoping to turn into some dough. I should note that I'm currently on a 3 picks game win streak right now. Results never guaranteed, but just saying. My first Austrian Grand pick is Max Verstappen to finish P2 or better. Max has won 5 of the last 9 races held at the Red Bull Ring, which is one of his home races at which he always has a lot of supporters with the orange flares and such. And he was even on to finish in the top 2 there last year before his collision with Lando Norris, despite the Red Bull car being clearly slower than the McLaren last year. And along with all that, Red Bull are bringing some upgrades to Austria, so I like Max to finish in the top 2. My second pick is Lance Stroll to finish P16 or better. I mean, this is just a no-brainer. The Aston Martin car has finished in the points each of the last 2 weekends, so despite Lance's injury and his poor form, picking him to not finish in the bottom 4 is the obvious choice, considering the amount of slower cars and the chance for DNFs. My third pick is Ollie Behrman to finish P14 or better. Haas had an impressive double points finish in Austria last year that saw Hülkenberg and Magnussen finish P6 and P8, so I like Behrman to put forth a good enough effort in his Haas to at least come in P14 or better. My final pick is Nico Hülkenberg to finish P12 or better. Like I said, Hulk finished P6 here last year, plus he's coming off back-to-back points finishes, so P12 or better seems like an incredible pick if you ask me. J-Bone, for now. If all 4 of these bets hit, I'll be turning $10 into $100, and whether you want to follow my Grid Rival Austrian Grand picks, do the exact opposite of them because you think I'm wrong, or make your own entirely different picks, you can get a $100 deposit match when you use my code BONE on the Grid Rival app. You can get a $100 deposit match when you use my code BONE on the Grid Rival app, which you can download through the unique download link in the description now. Terms and conditions and age and location restrictions apply, and lines may have changed since this recording. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, here are my 3 bona fide race predictions for the 2025 F1 Austrian Grand Prix that could be the final nail in the L-bone coffin. In case you aren't aware, I make 3 predictions ahead of every single F1 race, and I'm currently at 13 for 30, aka 43% on the season with my F1 race predictions. This means I need to go at least 5 for 6 with my Austrian and British Grand Prix race predictions in order to be at 50% on the season with my Grand Prix predictions by the time this F1 season is halfway over. If I don't, my name changes from J-Bone to L-Bone on account of how many L's that means I'm taking. So I absolutely need, like literally absolutely need at least 2 of these Austrian Grand Prix predictions to come true, or else it's game over for J-Bone. Hashtag pray for J-Bone. My first Austrian Grand Prix prediction is that Max Verstappen will finish on the podium in Austria. Red Bull's Max Verstappen has missed out on the podium in 2 of the last 3 Grand Prix. However, he always drives well in Austria, which is one of his 3 home Grand Prix, if a driver can even have 3 home Grand Prix. Red Bull are bringing some car upgrades to Austria as well that should help Max out. Plus, Max just showed us in Canada that he is not driving scared right now despite being just 1 penalty point away from a 1-race ban. So yeah, I like Max. My second prediction is that Haas will finish in the points in Austria. After a hot season start that saw them score points at 3 of the season's first 4 race weekends, Haas have missed out on scoring points in 4 of the last 6 race weekends. However, I love Haas to buck the trend and finish in the points in Austria, considering how last season in Austria, they had a double points finish in their best points haul of the entire 2024 season. My third prediction is that Alex Albon will finish in the points in Austria. Williams driver Alex Albon has not scored any points in either of the last 2 Grand Prix weekends on account of DNFing due to collision damage in Spain and power unit issues in Canada. He's still been qualifying well though, so if he can avoid some bad luck in Austria this weekend, I believe that he gets back into the points. Finally, here's my prediction for the top 5 finishers in the 2025 Austrian Grand Prix with 0 reasoning nor explanation. P5, Kimi Antonelli. P4, George Russell. P3, Max Verstappen. P2, Oscar Piastri. And P1, Lando Norris. I said it. Now for the most important part of this video, what are your predictions for the 2025 Austrian Grand Prix? Let me, J-Bone, for now, see them in the comments. Toss me a subscription now and ring that notification bell so that you'll get my combination Austrian Grand Prix recap and British Grand Prix preview video next week right when it drops. And while you're doing that, do not forget to like this video so that YouTube likes J-Bone more. It really does help me out, okay? For real. Special shout out to my top YouTube channel members, Joe Max's Number 1 Hater Snow, Brian Linton, Wolfslaws Racing, Wabalopkis, Melissa Cruz, Elmar Super, The Tater, and David Hake. Mash that join button just below this video to get your name shouted out right here in future videos. And if you want to join 1,000 plus F1 fans in the free to join Formula Bone Discord community, you can go do that through the join link in the description. Until next time, folks, J-Bone for now. J-Bone!